Want to make better sentences in English? Use relative clauses. I'll teach you all about them today. You can download a free PDF of this lesson, which also includes a quiz for practice. Click on the link in the description for that. You'll definitely want it because we're going to cover a lot of information. What is a relative clause? It's a phrase that adds information to a sentence. All relative clauses describe a noun, and they begin with one of these relative pronouns or relative adverbs. So we have relative pronouns like who to describe people as a subject. The woman who works in the bank is my neighbor. And whom to describe people as an object. My cousins, one of whom is a doctor, live in England. Whose describes possession. The man whose car was stolen went to the police station. That describes things in defining relative clauses. I'm selling the computer that I bought in the US. Which also describes things in non-defining relative clauses. I'm selling this computer, which has a 250 gigabyte hard drive, for $500. Then we have our relative adverbs. When describes times. My favorite season is fall, when all the leaves change color. Where describes places. I visited the neighborhood where I grew up. And why gives a reason. Do you know the reason why the stores are closed today? Using relative clauses helps you create better sentences in English. Let's look at some English sentences without relative clauses. Yesterday I met a man. He works in the circus. I bought a cell phone. It has internet access. There's the restaurant. I ate at that restaurant last night. Those sentences are correct, but they are very short and simple and they almost sound robotic. So you can use relative clauses to make your sentences sound fluent and natural. Yesterday, I met a man who works in the circus. I bought a cell phone that has internet access. There's the restaurant where I ate last night. Now let's talk about defining and non-defining relative clauses. Non-defining relative clauses add extra information to the sentence, and defining relative clauses add essential information to the sentence. You can see if a relative clause is defining or non-defining by removing it from the sentence. So if you remove a non-defining relative clause, again, that's extra information, the sentence still has the same meaning, just without the extra information. But if you remove a defining relative clause, then the sentence would have a different meaning or is incomplete. So let's see some examples. Here's one with a non-defining relative clause. My brother, who lives in California, is an engineer. If you remove who lives in California, the sentence still has the same meaning. My brother is an engineer. So the relative clause, who lives in California, is just extra information. Now let's look at a sentence with a defining relative clause. That's the student who failed English class 3 times. If you remove the clause, who failed English class 3 times, then the sentence is incomplete. That's the student. It's not complete. So the relative clause, who failed English class 3 times, is essential information, not extra, because it tells us which student specifically we are talking about. You might have noticed from those examples that in written English, we use a comma before and after non-defining relative clauses. Again, the ones that add extra information. So whether the clause is defining or non-defining tells us whether to use which or that. We use which in non-defining relative clauses, again with a comma, and we use that for defining relative clauses without a comma. So let's look at this example. The bananas that I bought on Monday are rotten. The bananas, which I bought on Monday, are rotten. So in the first case, the bananas that I bought on Monday are rotten. It's possible that I have 2 types of bananas in the house. Older ones that I bought on Monday and newer ones that I bought on Wednesday. And only the first bananas are rotten, the older ones, but the second group of bananas are not. But in the second case, the bananas, which I bought on Monday, are rotten. That means that all the bananas in the house were bought on Monday and they are all rotten. So you can see that the sentence changes depending on whether I use a defining or a non-defining relative clause. I read all the books that I borrowed from the library. If I remove the clause, I just have, I read all the books. Now our sentence is incomplete. What books? The new Stephen King book, which I borrowed from the library, is very good. If I remove the clause, the new Stephen King book is very good. That sentence is complete, so the library part was only an extra detail. Your next step is to take the quiz on relative clauses, which is inside that downloadable PDF. The link is in the description. Click on it, enter your email address, and I'll send you the free PDF guide and quiz. And if you want to take your English grammar to the next level, come check out my advanced English grammar course at espressoenglish.net.